Hey, hello everybody. My name's Jonathan McCormack, and I'm an attachment specialist here in New York. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me. I think about 80 people signed up, and I'll be sending this webinar to their email. My intention for this is that this webinar will have significant value for you. And by value, I mean you'll be happy with it and you'll be satisfied in the future. I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, then a little 10-minute presentation. Then we're actually going to do a meditation so you can kind of experience the healing. And then some questions at the end. I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening that causes insecure attachment and exactly how it can be healed. And you can feel free to leave your cameras on or off. That's up to you. So just get started. As an example, tell you about my friend Susie. Susie called me up. She has been talking about this job promotion for months and months and months. And she got home excited to tell her boyfriend, Kevin. I'm buddies with him too. And so she comes in excited to tell him, and tells him, this big smile on her face, I got the job promotion. And Kevin's reaction, he just sat there on the couch and said, yeah, it's great, honey. What's for dinner? You know, and I asked her, like, how do you feel? That's disappointing. But she wasn't disappointed. She was devastated. And she actually went into a room and broke down crying. And I asked her, like, how did it feel? She goes, it felt like I was being abandoned. I said, what are the thoughts or beliefs that came with that? She goes, well, it felt like I'm not worthy. Felt like, no man, certainly no good man is going to care about me. I'm certainly not worthy for love, obviously, because this guy doesn't care about me. And the meaning her mind attached to that event was that this means she's not worthy of love. So what's happening? I would suggest that her reaction had nothing to do with that scenario at all. I would suggest that a part of her is stuck in the past. A child part was popping up to help. The mind causes emotions to cause a behavior, to get you to do something. You might think, why would the mind cause panic? And that doesn't help relationships panic. But think about it. If you're a child, that relationship is 100% necessary. Relationships are necessary for your survival. You will die without them. Yeah. So if you're a child and you feel your parents aren't really there for you, your mind is going to cause an emotion, panic, to get a behavior, to reestablish that connection. You need that connection. These are the food bringers. It is terrifying to think that your parents are not for you. You're helpless as a child. And this is true even in the animal kingdom, with baby birds. They'll be like mama bird and Billy bird. And if there's not enough worms, mama bird will just take Billy bird by the neck, toss him out of the nest. Yeah. And humans do the same thing. It's easy to kill a kid. Just leave it. Just leave it. And this actually happens. I was just reading about the Roman Empire, and yeah, ladies, that's what guys do. We do read about the Roman Empire, and this letter actually was to his wife, the soldier, and said, "Hey, I love you, honey. Thinking about you all the time, but the campaign didn't go as well. So I'm gonna need you to take our youngest daughter, 5 winters old, and leave her in the woods because there's not enough food." I mean, I was horrified. But yeah, that happens. In fact, and you see this. I was at the mall and I saw this mother with her little boy, little whoever, Johnny, and Johnny was screaming, I don't want to leave. And the mother goes, it's okay. You could stay. I'm leaving. And then took off. And he panicked. His face went white. Of course, he's terrified. That's his lifeline. That's his lifeline, you know? So all that makes sense, you know? So the mind is causing anxiety and panic to cause you to make that connection, you know? And that makes perfect sense if you're a child. If you're a child. But remember, my friend Susie said she felt like she was abandoned. Yeah, I felt that way. A lot of us have, but an adult can't get abandoned. An adult can't get abandoned. You ever hear like a 50-year-old saying, oh, yeah, my parents just died. I'm an orphan. No, a child can get abandoned, you know, and then the ravens come and take them off or whatever. But an adult can't. And try to have a relationship if you think it's necessary to survive. I mean, if you think that relation, that's what your nervous system is telling you, you will be hyper vigilant. You'll be any little indication that this relationship is not stable. Of course, you'll panic. You'll be an anxious wreck, you know? But adults don't need relationships. Relationships aren't necessary. Romantic relationships. When the mind hears something's necessary, it hears necessary for survival. Relationships are valuable. And if it doesn't work out, you experience sadness, you grieve, but abandonment. Imagine how much pressure that would put on a relationship, you know? But also the thoughts. She thought she wasn't worthy. And the beliefs that came from that. That's the meaning her mind attached to that. I mean, where did that come from? Well, I'm saying this is a child part reacting. And think about it. You're a little kid and dad's a bastard. But you don't think that because that's your father. That's someone you rely on. Your parents are like gods. And it'd be terrifying if you thought your parents weren't going to be there for you to take care of you. So if your parents are ignoring you, what does that mean? Well, that must mean, you know, I'm not worthy of their attention. That's the belief that gets attached to that, you know. As an adult, you know, no. If you're not being paid attention to, that's something going on with the parent, but that's the belief your mind attaches to. Now try to do a relationship, you're adult, and this person decides whether you're lovable. This person decides whether you're worthy. That's a lot of pressure. I mean, you know, I'd be a nervous wreck if that was my belief. And a lot of us have that belief, you know. But that's just our mind attaching the meaning to it. So if you want to correct it, we talk about two things. You want an emotional correction and to change the beliefs, the meaning your mind is attaching to things. It's an unusual way of thinking because I'm saying that my friend Susie's reaction had nothing to do with what was happening. And I believe that. So just to give you an example, there's a famous attachment story. These little kids, they did this experiment. They took these little kids, 8 years old, these little girls, and they told little girls, little boys are going to come in here and ask you to dance. You say no. That's it. So they have the little boys in another room. They tell little boys, go in, ask them to dance. They send the first little boy in, and he's adorable. You can find video of this. And he asked the first little girl, do you want to dance? And she says, no. And he goes, okay. Goes to the second little girl, do you want to dance? Girl says, no. He goes, okay. Goes to the third little girl, do you want to dance? Says, no. Okay. And then he stands in the corner. Second little boy comes in and goes up to the little girl. Do you want to dance? Girl says, no. His face drops, his lips quivering. He grabs a chair and he scrapes it, pulls it in the classroom, collapses into it, and just stares down. And just stares down. What happened? It's the same. The exact same thing happened. And someone might say, why is that little kid crying? And someone might answer, because they got rejected. That's why he's crying. But no, that's not why. It had nothing to do with the scenario, because that other kid got rejected. So it's happening. It's the meaning. I don't know what that first 8-year-old was thinking, but whatever that reaction was, it said nothing about him. And that's one of the big things with insecure attachment is we tend to think that other people's reactions say something about us. That's never true. Other people's reactions give us information about them. The second little boy, again, I don't know what he was thinking. I imagine the beliefs and meaning he's attaching to that as, boy, this girl rejected me. That must mean I'm unlovable. That's what that must mean. That must mean I'm not worthy. I mean, that's pretty devastating. I bet you that kid grows up, that's going to be his pattern all through life. So how do you fix it? You give an emotional correction, right? And you change the meaning. So when someone's ignoring you as a kid, your emotional connection might be, reaction might be panic. You want to give that part, that little kid, a different reaction, the experience of being soothed. You can do that with the imagination. And you want to give a different belief. You want that little part to get that what happened there, the parent ignoring you, had nothing to do with it. Every child deserves unconditional love. That's something to do with the parent. You want to get that part unstuck. You want the mind to know that you're no longer 8 years old. Being rejected is not a threat to your survival, that you're an adult now. And you can do that with parts work. And that's exactly what I'm going to show. So let me show a little 10-minute presentation. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, I hope everyone can see that. If not, someone can unmute and let me know. Parts work for healing attachment wounds. Yeah, so you guys know this, but real quick, secure attachments when you're healthy, ask for help, you can self-regulate. There's anxious attachment. You're clingy, fear of abandonment, need reassurance. Why would this happen? Well, think about it. You're a little kid and your parents are not consistent. You can't rely on them. So you become hyper vigilant. Okay. You do whatever it takes to grab their attention. Your attachment becomes hyper activated. And you better, because you're in danger if you're a kid. You better cry. You better get any attention the way you can. And avoidant, difficulty expressing emotions, becoming withdrawn. This would happen if you're emotionally neglected. As a child, you reach out for a reaction and get nothing. You reach out again and you get nothing. Well, eventually you just shut down to protect yourself. Yeah. And you carry that on to adulthood. And disorganized just when you have both, right? Yeah. Sometimes you're very anxious and clingy. Sometimes you're avoidant. So how do you fix it? Yeah. Parts work. Look at that. Yeah. So how many people thought I could work in a SpongeBob SquarePants reference? That's my training. Yeah. 50,000 debt. That was worth it. So what are the parts? Fine. Everyone knows what these parts are. They're voices inside your head. They embody life experiences, they do have emotions and whatnot. They protect you. They're there to protect you. They're popping up to help you. And you think, well, that's not very helpful. I'm feeling panicked. But if you're a little kid, that's what you need. You need to feel panicked. So you better panic and get reattached, and so they can hijack, control your behavior. So what happens when this is going on? I don't get into it, but if you guys really want to know, we're talking about memory reconsolidation. And you can change in two ways. You can try new behaviors and new beliefs, and that takes years. And you can go to a therapist, and after 3 years, you can turn to them and say, I'm not changing. And they'll say something like, yeah, but now you're aware. You're very aware, though. And you're like, yeah, I'm aware that I'm $10,000 in debt and bought you a new boat. That's what you're aware of. Or you can do it this way. And this is activating the original memory, the original experience that opens up, and the mind starts looking for a prediction. Yes, yes, when I was ignored in childhood, I was nearly abandoned, nearly died, looking for a prediction. And you have about 4 hours to give it a new experience, not just once. It has to be 3 times. The brain recognizes a pattern. And if you want, you can look this stuff up. Bruce Ecker is excellent on this. Deb Dana, all the polyvagal folk, they have the saying, story follows state. And that means your reaction, your nervous reaction will be your story. So if you're panicking, your story will be, I'm in danger. If your nervous system is nice and calm, you're going to tell yourself a different story. How you react is going to be about your nervous system. Yeah. So when you're getting yelled at, what's really happening is you're going back and you're remembering, and the mind remembers, I remember being yelled at. I remember this. Yeah, my father did this. My mother did this, and I was in danger. That's really what you're reacting to. The emotions, the experience are coming from another place, another part. So, I mean, this is true. When you're triggered in your adult life, a wounded inner child breaks in the surface and starts to call the shots. And you experience that through their eyes. And you use their strategies to stay safe, right? An adult strategy probably isn't like my friend Susie going into a room and breaking down crying. You know, I get why she did it. You know, I understand. But that doesn't help heal the. But if you're a little kid, yeah, you want to start crying because then maybe someone come and take care of you. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you're a child. Yeah. So this is how you find the kid part. This is like actually how you do it. I would tell you to feel those emotions. Say you get into an argument with your partner. I would say, go back to that place. Feel those emotions. Feel those emotions. Embody them. Notice the sensations. It's very somatic. See if a memory comes up. Float back to childhood. At least get a part that pops up. And I'd ask a funny question. You know, how old is this feeling? What does it feel like? And you might be surprised, might pop up, be like, wow, this feeling feels like 8 years old, you know? Yeah, yeah. And you might even get a memory, the original memory, or one of them, the first time you remember feeling that way. And now we have that part. We found that kid part that's wounded. So we have that isolated child part that's stuck in the past with that message, I'm bad, you know? And we want to connect it to a mature, sensitive adult part. And this is happening neurologically. You have the part, you have another part, you know. So you want to connect a neural pathway between the two to give a new experience, you know. And you can do that with your imagination. You can do that with imageal work. And that way the unconscious connects the two. So you want to connect these two, some adult loving part with that child part, and get them resolved, you know, and get those developmental needs met that you didn't as a child, and give it to this part. You can do this a couple different ways. In IFS, I'm trained in IFS, and I have 2 clients, and I do IFS work exclusively with them. That's fine. IFS is great. You would use something called self. This is self energy. And so you'd see this part and you get into this mode of being where you're very compassionate and caring and curious about this part. Yeah, yeah. So that's what you do in IFS, you know. But there's problems with using self. First of all, it can be difficult to get into self, especially when you're triggered, especially for attachment disorders. I have a lot of clients, and I'm like, okay, are you feeling curious about this part? You feeling, and they're not. They're not. It's hard to be in that self state, you know. It's very difficult. And I hear that all the time. I can't get into self. Yeah, it's difficult, you know. So instead, you can use something called the ideal parent figure protocol. And this is kind of my bag. This is what I'm trained in. And this is remarkable. There are very few protocols that actually heal attachment wounds. In fact, there's only really one, this one. There's another one with some science behind it, but this one's great. It's created by Dan Brown, David Elliott. And essentially, you imagine ideal parents, not your parents, and they can be anyone, giving you those secure experiences. And it's even been shown to help with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And Dan Brown, he died last year, but I took his Harvard course for Ideal Parent Protocol. David Elliott, the other guy, I see him every other week. David's great. He trains me. And so you use these imaginary figures to get the 5 qualities of secure attachment. And here's the 5 pillars of feeling a sense of felt safety, sense of being seen and known, comfort, sense of being valued, a sense of support. And notice it says a felt sense. That's important because it has to be somatic. We're dealing with the nervous system, and the imagination is perfect for that. You've probably sat in a movie theater, perfectly safe in the dark, and yet you're watching a movie and your heart's beating. That's your nervous system be affected by your imagination, you know? I mean, that's what it is. So you want to get some, you want to feel that. You know, a lot of times you can't visualize these ideal parents and whatnot, but you want to feel. We've all been in the presence of people. We just feel calm and safe, you know, and that's what we want to get. Yeah. So there's a lot of benefits to using this, the ideal parent protocol. First of all, the unconscious responds strongly to imagery. It does. That's the language of the unconscious. Boom, yeah. And you can use anything for the ideal parents, as long as it's not your real parents. I know someone who uses Princess Diana. I know someone who uses the Dalai Lama. Hell, I know someone who uses the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That guy's a little weird, but hey, it works for him, right? So the ideal parents kind of act as a channel for the self energies of compassion and caring that sometimes it's hard for us to get into. Yeah. And the client doesn't have to rely on the therapist, because therapists, I don't know if you guys seen this guy. This is like a real guy. Someone told me on TikTok, a therapist, and he's like ranting, I hate being a therapist. And the truth is, therapists are insane people. I mean, let's just be honest. Most of them are. And the therapist is supposed to be an attachment figure. And Dan Brown, one reason he made the ideal parents figures, so the client wouldn't have to rely on the therapist. The client can rely on these imaginary figures who are perfect and ideal. Because let's face it, a lot of times therapists, they're not in the right mind. They have bad days. You're supposed to, the therapist is supposed to bring his self energy into it. I got to tell you, that can be very difficult, you know? So the reason this works is the unconscious doesn't distinguish between imagination and memory, especially childhood memory. You know, children are in their fantasy land. And so when we do these, instead of the mind going to these memories you have, the mind will go to these meditations and use those to predict behavior. Yeah. And believe it or not, the MRIs are astonishing. Memory and imagination. The unconscious simply doesn't distinguish between them. Yeah. So you're essentially creating new implicit memories and giving your mind a new internal working model of relationships. This internal working model sets the patterns of what you expect from people. Yeah, that's the big, it's based on attachment experiences. And this is what infants get put in them. You know, what you expect from other people, what you're expected to do. And you're making a new a new one. Yeah. That's what you're doing. You're healing the wounded inner child. And that's what we're doing, you know. How do you do that? Three things. One, you witness. So I'd go back, you know, I'd go back and, you know, listen to that part. I'd say, what is this part's message? What's going on? And it might say, well, it's feeling terrible. The father's yelling at it. I'm confused. I don't know what's happening. We listen. We let it express it, you know. Then we give it a corrective emotional experience, you know. So we have the ideal parents come in, and the ideal parents listen, and they give it soothing. It feels abandoned, you know, so as that the neural patterns, but then it gets soothed, it gets comforted, gets warmth. That's what it comes to expect. And three, releasing and transformation. Yeah. And at the end, you can have the ideal parents take them out of the memory to a new place. You can have that child in your imagination take all these burdens and throw them in the air, throw them in the ocean, burn them up until it learns that he's good and safe. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just my website. Yeah. That's the whole deal. Boom, boom, boom. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, I could take them, and then we'll do a short meditation if you want to unmute. And if anyone does have any questions about that, that's the whole process. Anyone does anything at all? No, I don't know. Do you at least like the SpongeBob SquarePants reference? I don't know. Okay, nothing.
I'm just going to ask you a question, Jonathan,
Yeah,
about ideal parent figure protocol.
yeah.
And is that available somewhere, or is it in
Yeah,
in terms of EMDR or RDI build? I'm not sure whether where we can get that protocol actually.
yeah, well, that's written about in Dan Brown and David Elliott's book, Attachment Disturbances in Adults.
Oh,
Yeah. And
okay. Thank you.
yeah, that's where the whole protocol is. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I do offer, I mean, that's what I do, but I do offer on my website like a secure package where I just see people for 3 sessions. I get their attachment style, and I do these meditations, and they have 3 hours of recordings. But the actual thing is in Attachment Disturbances for Adults by Dan Brown. And actually, you look up Dan Brown Ideal Parent Figure Protocol, and he's on YouTube. And it's a quick thing. It's like 10 minutes long of him kind of going through it quickly. And it's basically, you know, float back to childhood. You see the ideal father, and oh, and notice the delight. Notice how delighted he is in you. You notice how you feel safety, and you go through these scenarios where you get those 5 secure things.
Right. Thank you very much.
Sure, sure. Yeah. And anyone else? Anyone? No. Okay. Okay. Well, in that case, I'd like to actually do a meditation about 15 minutes long, just to let you know it's going to be, I'm going to ask you to do 3 deep breaths, calm the nervous system, do a body scan. I'm going to ask you to float back to a safe place and bring up an emotion, an activation you had in the past week. Nothing huge. This could be anything. This could be you're anxious going to work. This could be something your partner said. This could be thinking about anything, anxiety, a depression, anything. And in your memory, go back to that scene and feel those emotions in your body, the sensations, even the beliefs you had. And then I'll ask you, see the mind to give us a memory and float back to that memory, the original scene. And whatever's happening, you just freeze it. Then you bring in the ideal parents and have them correct the experience. But I'll go through the whole thing. Okay, so I'm just going to begin now. So I would just invite everyone to get into a meditative posture with your back straight but loose. And start bringing your awareness into the body. Bring your awareness in and down. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. Super deep breath. Hold it below the belly and slowly release. Yeah. And another super deep breath. Hold it below the belly and slowly release. Good. Last one. Super deep breath. Hold it and release. And now we can do a quick body scan. And I'll just ask you to focus your awareness on your forehead. Just notice any tension there. And bring your awareness down around the eyes, softening the cheeks, softening the jaw. A wave of warm, loving awareness moving down your neck, into your shoulders, down your torso, down, down. Loosen the belly, loosen the hips. A wave of warmth moving down your legs, all the way down to your feet, firmly planted on the ground, like roots of a tree. And now they're more relaxed and calm and comfortable. In a moment, I'm going to count 5 to 1. When I reach 1, you can close your eyes, if not closed already, and imagine a perfectly safe place. It could be real or imaginary, outside or inside, but I just want you to know that this is your private place. My voice will go with you, but I'm just a guest. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now I would invite you to imagine a place that's perfectly secure, perfectly safe. Yeah. You can even imagine if there are any sounds or smells and what it is that allows you to feel so safe here. Yeah. Now I'd invite you to bring up those feelings we just talked about. Something that happened in the past week. It can be anything. Something your boss said, something your partner said, anxiety, thinking about the future, any little activation, and go back to that memory and being there right now, being there right now. If it's with a partner, look at their face, notice their face, notice the room, being there now. Notice the sensations in your body. Notice those sensations. How's your stomach feeling? Your throat, your chest. Where are you feeling these sensations in your body? Really lean into those. And now notice the feelings you're feeling. Note them. Is it anxiety? discomfort, just take a moment here. And the first thing to notice, you can abide in these feelings. They're just feelings. They come and go. And now you can notice what beliefs are coming with these feelings. Sometimes it's, I'm unlovable. Sometimes it's, I'm in trouble. You can just notice whatever beliefs are arising from these feelings and sensations. And lean into these feelings, lean in, make them bigger, lean in wherever they live in your body, go into them, get so close that you step into them, that feeling. And now ride that feeling back to childhood. You don't have to try. Your mind is working great and will just give us a memory. Float back to childhood. Float back all the way back to childhood, riding this feeling. Perhaps you'll have a memory of the first time you felt this way. Ride it back, all the way back. How old did this feeling feel? What age is it? And if no memory comes, that's okay. You can make up a scenario, something that likely happened in childhood to produce these feelings. And allow yourself to get very clear, seeing that young child in this scenario. And as it becomes more and more clear, and you see this young child, freeze that scene and bring in your ideal parents. These aren't your real parents. These are ideal parents, perfectly suited to you and for someone with your nature. And notice this feeling of warmth and love. And perhaps this young child looks up and sees their eyes, and there's something in their eyes that allows this child to really feel it's cherished. Notice how patient these ideal parents are, the tone of their voice. This young child is very curious, very curious. You can allow that image to become very clear. But more than that, you can feel just how secure and present these ideal parents are. And it can be one or the other. It doesn't have to be both. And now notice the ideal parents see this young child and they immediately are so attuned. They see there's something the matter. And they see the beliefs forming around it. And they go over and they just wipe those beliefs away. Just wipe them away like smoke in the wind, like an eraser erasing a board. And they go, this young child, lean down, tilt their head. And say, what's the matter? What's going on? What's going on? And this young child can really know that they care. And you can give voice to that young child right now. Take a moment and listen to what one child has to say. Take a moment to allow that child to have a voice. Now. Yeah, good. And notice the ideal parents get it. They understand completely. And they want to know, what are you feeling? Confused. And they get it. And notice the reaction of that young child. Perhaps he feels relieved. They have someone he could talk to, someone who's there for them and listens. You know what this young child needed at that time, and you can give it to him right now. Yeah. Now, notice these ideal parents know just what to do to make this young child feel comfortable. They reassure him or her verbally or physically, whatever this young child's comfortable with. If they're comfortable, they can even put a hand on their shoulder, brush their hair. If they're feeling very strongly connected, they can even scoop this child up and hold it close. Whatever they do, notice they know how to soothe this child in just the right way, just the way it needs. And notice the feelings in the body, what it feels like to be comforted, the warmth. Yeah. And now perhaps this child's feeling a little bit better. And the ideal parent asks what it needs. What do you need? And it could be anything. The ideal parents could take this child to another place. The ideal parents could promise they'll check in on this child. This young part can take this heavy burden because it's just a young child. You shouldn't have to deal with this. This young child just take it, throw it up in the air, have it burst away, throw it into the flames if it wants. But it knows what it wants. Just have the ideal parents ask, what do you need? What can we do? And see what the young part answers. Whatever it answers, you can go ahead and do that. Take him out of there, promise to visit him. Do that now. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Good. And now that child part's feeling a little better. Have that child part get that it wasn't about them. It's about the parent. Maybe the parents are busy. Maybe they had things going on. But have that child part get that it wasn't about them. It wasn't about them. It doesn't have the ideal parent say every child deserves unconditional love. Every child. Every child. And as this child gets it, notice something changes. That child's no longer stuck there. Perhaps his face a little brighter, more color. But he gets it. It's not about him. He deserves unconditional love. Yeah. And perhaps this child's relieved. So relieved. Yeah. Yeah. And you can have the ideal parents tell, we're going to take care of things. You don't have to. You don't have to. We'll take care of things. Now, if everything's feeling better and calm, you can have that part float back with the ideal parents if it wants to wherever it goes. And now I'm going to count 5 to 1. And when I reach 1, we'll be back in the room, safe and present, but with all these feelings of safety and soothing deeply embedded in the body, because the body remembers. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back in the room, safe and secure, with these feelings deeply anchored in the body. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I can take questions, or if anyone wants to comment their experiences. Like I said, I do this. If anyone wants to work with me, that's great, though I'm booked up and there's a waiting list. But I do order like offer like a secure attachment package. It's 3 sessions, and I'll do these meditations, so the 5 developmental scenes, and then you'll have them, and you can listen to them daily. It makes a huge difference. Half price for it, so $299 for anyone who went to this webinar. Usually it's 600. But I'll email everyone the coupon. But yeah, if anyone has any questions of how to do this, anyone wants to share their comments, their experiences, what it felt like, um, you can feel free to do so. Yeah. Oh, thank you. It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. And you're very healing. I've seen people reach security within 6 months doing this. That have been in therapy for years. It works, period. Very effective. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's going on?
Okay, great. So what I noticed is that um, when I do the ideal parent protocol um, on its own, it doesn't seem to be super effective. But when I connect it to a need that I find inside of myself, like I don't know, for example, um, I'm anxious because my boss made a remark and then I'm afraid I'm going to be fired or something.
Yeah.
If I do the parts work where I notice the part of me that's triggered, because it's afraid that I'll be fired, and then I connect it to this abandonment or instability thing, and then I do the ideal parent protocol, I find that it actually works so much better than just doing the ideal protocol like that. So yeah, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I agree. I'm trained in the ideal protocol and I'm trained IFS. And I'm telling you, combine them. It works a lot better than either one on its own. And also just doing the meditation, the ideal parent protocol, you can find these meditations, but it's much better when someone's there. And by using the imagination, you can really work it. So I actually completely agree. So thank you though. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. All righty. Well, that was wonderful. Just thank all of you, and I'll email you some little things and thank yous, and email you this webinar. And I appreciate you all showing up. That was lovely. And Jonathan McCormack, if you want to get in contact with me, attachmenthealinghelp.com. And everyone have a lovely day. Thank you.